and drama. I think of both. I think of, yes, I think of often unresolved trauma.
Okay.
And the drama that comes from the sexual assault, but also that happens afterwards. Unfortunately, as Black women, the healing doesn't take place soon after the injury takes place. And so what happens is it festers and it ends up coming out in a bunch of different ways. LGBTQIA plus folks are so disproportionately impacted by sexual violence, sexual assault, intimate partner violence and the like. And then you break that down and you look at how trans people, and even more specifically Black trans women like us, are so disproportionately impacted. So many of us have stories that folks never hear about, but they see it all the time. They just don't hear about it.
By me being like a social media mogul, I believe that it plays a part into that sometimes, where people feel like they should know your business.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so me disclosing that, I thought that the leasing office or the people that was in charge, I thought they knew that I was trans, but they really didn't. And I was young at the time, and I was just explaining to her, like, you know, like I feel unsafe, you know, as a Black trans woman. So it's crazy because when I went back to the apartment complex and I was coming downstairs, the people in the office was discussing, you know, that I was trans and stuff like that. So it became very, very uncomfortable for me, and so I ended up moving from New York back to Atlanta. I feel like because I am trans, I feel like it was like swept under the rug and nobody really took it serious.
I've been a victim in certain situations. Some of them I've overcome, and which remain a survivor, and some of them I'm still working through. So I am a former sex worker. So once you are kind of sort of in the system, at least in this city, or state and city, you kind of, they kind of look at you a certain way. So, you know, being arrested for prostitution and then turning around and saying, well, hey, I was, you know, out one night and I got assaulted by someone. And they're like, well, you went down there to hug, so how could you be assaulted? Well, if I said no, then that means I was assaulted.
The time that I experienced sexual assault was in a relationship with a man who treated me on the outside, treated me like I felt I was supposed to be treated.
Okay.
Like any other woman would want to be treated. He doted on me. He made me feel like I was his big pretty girl, and he let the world know that I was her. I was her for him. But it was in those moments when he was battling with substance abuse.
Okay.
The demon in him would come out. He came out of the restroom and he was like, scoot over. So I was like, let's get in the room. That kid's getting in the bed. And so he got in the bed, and then he began to argue with himself. And then when he arguing with himself, start arguing with me, and I wasn't even having a conversation.
Okay.
And then I felt pressure around my neck, and his arm pressed me down in the bed. And he...
Take your time, I'm here. I'm here.
He forced himself in me.
Okay.
And I don't know why he was doing it. He was saying, ain't nobody else gonna love you. Because you one of them. You a big girl. You tall.
I can recall, I transitioned at the age of 14. I started my transition.
Okay.
Yeah, and at that time I didn't have stable housing because, you know, I don't know if you know, but, you know, some people in the Black community, some families, when their children are not what they think they should be or the identity that they assign them, they usually sometimes ostracize them, demonize them, you know, just cancel them in general. So that's how my journey started, you know. Yeah, so, and I was pushed to a world with adults, but I wasn't ready to be an adult, you know, and, you know, navigating the earth with adults, they don't see you as, they don't see the value in you. They don't care if you have value. They see you as, yeah.
You don't have a voice.
They see you as an opportunity, you know, and unfortunately I found myself being victim to several different opportunities from male-identified people.
All right, don't suffer in silence. We hear folks say things like that all the time, but it's true. Don't suffer in silence, because what happens is when something becomes infected by trauma, anytime there's an infection, until the infection is removed,
taken out
from the wound, somehow taken out, whether it grows out, whatever, it has to come out somewhere. Until that's removed, what happens is it continues to eat up all the good that's around it. And so it comes out in a bunch of different ways. I mentioned that earlier. So as a person who was actually shot by a man.
Wow.
Shot. And I'm 53 years old and have never told my mom, who ended up taking care of me, and I lied and told her that I had broken my leg.
Wow.
To this day, she doesn't know that. But and there's trauma even behind that. But I say if anyone would be willing to listen, one of the things I tell is if it happens, first of all, it is not your fault.
Yes.
It is. I don't care what you said, who put hands on who first. It's not your fault. Seek help and talk to someone. Not anyone, but talk to someone who is able to provide support when you